Hello,
and welcome back to what critics are calling a Warhammer painting show. Space Marine fans rejoice. Your time is now. I am your new friend, Mr. Taxidermy, and it is my guarantee that you will see these Warhammer miniatures, but your enemies are going to get 5-knuckle shuffled. Welcome to Backalley Taxidermy. Show audience, I know you'll want to get your peepers all over the upcoming Space Marine miniatures. But before you can see them, we gotta season these snipers with some zenithal priming. Let's call that a sniper seed. So start the seasoning by spraying some Walleye Yo black primer on these 3 amigos of Sniper Legend. Get that primer all over them. Get them all dark, like it is a night mission from your favorite stealth-based action game. Don't stay in the dark too long. Before you know it, you'll be plunging this white stuff and spritzing white from above. Give them a hearty puff from the air brissy and ensure gradient to successfully apply zenithal. Before we bring the color, bring the boom to my subscribe button and ring my bell. Thanks, champ. Let's start out simple with some Black Legion contrast paint. Slop this base color all over the armor of this super soldier sniper. Don't forget the weapons, which in this instance is the Las Fusil, a weapon I used twice in Space Marine 2. Next step is some real steel action, so take broadsword steel, speed paint, and fill in the details like cord. Make these metal bits look like Wolverine's claws. Huge Ackman. I might not be the greatest showman here, because this fella's putting Basilicum Gray, another non-color, onto this miniature's base. All those concrete rubble bits. Okay, so now we got some color with Burnished Red, which is kind of a whack name, because this is straight up brown, which is what we'll need for these energy pack thingies on these fellers' thighs. I don't know what they keep in those bags. Call in the Wild Force, because this cloak is being doused with a hearty amount of wild wood, a much used contrast paint. Apply liberally for a dark earthy base coat, which will eventually become the titled mention Ghillie Suits. Skeleton Horde spooks us for a blink and you miss it appearance. Slapped on those purity parchments.
Army Painter.
Army Painter murder scene is here, on the scene. And it's adding its much loved color to some of the snipers' extra gear. I think we need a pop of bright red, so we bring in Jonker's favorite,
we live in a society,
Slafter Red, which is beginning to make the shoulder pads look something like a can of beloved American soda beverage. Catch the wave! Sneak these Armenian snipers back into the shadows with some Necromancer Cloak, a bluey gray color that is desaturated enough to invoke the riveting stealth gameplay of Tom Clancy the Sniper. As loreheads will know, Space Marines ain't natty at all. In fact, they are gene-enhanced super soldiers of the Imperium. So unfortunately, with a heavy heart, we break kayfabe and apply natural steel to brighten up and clean up the metal parts we previously colored in. Those shoulder pads are not quite seasoned enough, so we go in with some Scarlet Red to highlight and brighten up these otherwise flat panels of armor. Did you know? Space Marine Eliminators wear Phobos armor that allows them to operate with maximum discretion as they stalk their prey. Thank me later when that question appears on Trivia Night. Now we bust out some mahogany brown to break up the monotonous brown of the leather pouches, which after some consideration likely contain Rob Liefeld's feet pictures. For those of you who didn't understand the last joke,
sorry, Link,
for the confusion, I am not insinuating anything that would slander or harm Rob Liefeld's public image. I assure you, this joke is only in reference to the comic artist's disdain for drawing feet, and not to be taken as a reference to anything that is not family friendly. Now that we have cleared up that confusion, let's take some inner light and yellow these cables that connect the rifle to the Space Marine's eye for better and more accurate sniper. Fuck, that was another Rob Liefeld joke, wasn't it? I'm really sorry, audience. I'll stop making them. In fact, let's retroactively dedicate this episode to the much beloved comic illustrator and slap a Rob Liefeld seal of approval on the thumbnail. Much like hit comic book character Deadpool, we take some bloody red and make the shoulders a little bit more defined and red, like the beloved Marvel character comic Super Suit.
We regret to inform you that Deadpool is in fact a creation of famous comic illustrator Rob Liefeld, and as such you have made another reference, albeit
unintentionally.
Yeah, at this point it feels intentional, doesn't it? Fuck it, Robbie, I know where the bodies are. Grimoire Perp gonna pretty up them purity seals. I love this next paint for adding some texture to the metal materials. Army Painter Death Metal. It's being applied to break up the flat silver and introduce a secondary metal color. Stop me if you've heard this one before, but we take white ink and we glide over the rifle's reactor coils and other bits we are about to make glowy. The white ink will make the next semi-transparent paints really pop out. And while we wait for the ink to dry, we take some uniform gray, a lighter gray, and dry brush the little Shriner backpack thing these snipers have going on. Be patient for that pop, and don't worry, you will see. But first we use dark sand on the parchments, and even inside the backpacks, as some bony details. I think these Marines need a trim.
I like it cut, G.
So we gonna use bright gold and add a trim to the shoulder pads. I like how this contrasts with the red we laid down before. It really frames the colorful pad on this otherwise dull / stealthy miniature.
Pale sand
Has returned and does its duty by dusting the purity parchments with the final highlight. Always a pleasure, Pale Sand. Thank you, audience, for sticking it out with me and waiting for the radiation glow. We are going to glaze this over the dried ink. This cheese-flavored paint is like a gift from Chester Cheetah himself, as it makes the coils look all powered up and ready to 360 no-scope all the scrubs that step up to these super soldier snipers. And speaking of Doritos,
Put some hot sauce on my Doritos.
the next paint pairs perfectly for gamer time, Data System Glow, which invokes the Mountain Dew vibe for this MLG party.
Damn, son.
So let's crank some 90s and glaze right onto the scope and lenses. Now this gamer is playing with power. You know, here at Backalley Taxidermy, we love a good leaf. So let's take some time out of our day to slap some Luftwaffe green onto the basing bits and add more color to the foliage. And you don't have to stick with only one green. In fact, there are more strains of green. That's what Kushmeister likes to say. So take some green skin and slap some texture onto the 3D printed basing bits. Now that's a proper plant. These fellows feelin' funky with these wacky weeds he's hiding in. And they need a different shade of green. So take some scaly hide and just scratch some highlights onto them. The funky flora has been all figured out, and we can safely get out of the weeds and back into the epic gamer moments we all crave. Let's take a page out of the old Dudley playbook and begin making this fella 3D. Let's lightly edge up the armor panels with some Luftwaffe World War II uniform. Sketch in these highlights to show some definition to the stealthy Phobos armor, which we have learned so much about this episode. Look how tacti-cool they are beginning to appear. Get ready, my loyal audience, as we embark on a Ghillie Suit adventure, which is sure to unfold before your eyes. Longtime friends of the channel will recognize this texture paint, AK-47 Dark Earth, as the basing paste we use for all our dank angels. So let's start splattering some on the stealthy cloaks to add some natural textures. This will help sell the effect of the Ghillie Suit. I know of a Gully Man, but I ain't never heard no Ghillie Man. Well, there's a first time for everything. Next step is your old pal, Army Painter Basing Glue. And we're taking this white and sticky liquid and splashing it all over the Ghillie cloak. Then, without hesitation, pick up some AK-47 static grass and begin to throw down the grass onto the cloak. You can do this to taste, and be not afraid. The more chaotic, the better, as the goal is to look natural, so being patchy and uneven will sell the final effect. Remember, the goal is for you to not see them, so it should look like a natural base. Simple as. Once you're satisfied with the natural ghillie cloak, we can move on to decal time. To begin this finishing touch, apply a slick layer of ard coat down where you will want the decals applied. The glossy finish will help smooth the decal down and make it easier to adjust. Take your freshly sliced decal and slide them down onto the sniper's shoulders. That's right, these badass eliminators are also fans of Fortnite rockers Avenged Sevenfold. Yeah! Who could have seen that coming? And make sure to lock in the decals once they are dry with some matte varnish. This will ensure that they won't come loose when under fire from enemy units, which is unlikely to happen since you can't see them. Seeing as this is our very first episode, I think it's appropriate to finish this fella off with a classic black base rim, so take your blackest paint and glide along these bases. And there you have it, a Ghillie Suit sniper, as promised by the title of this video, but as longtime friends will know, it ain't a content video until we take it to the fridge.
Is Champ there?
Who is Champ?
That question will be answered this Sunday night! Nice.
Wow. It's almost like these snipers had other obligations and couldn't attend the fridge. But no, I assure you that wasn't an empty base you saw. It was, in fact, one of James Workshop's famous miniatures, the Primaris Eliminators. And if you are a true Space Marine fan, you'll know that your oath of moment is to like the video and do engagement. Thank you. That's about all from me, your host, Mr. Taxidermy. I'll be seeing you real soon.